Welcome to Porch Play Chats, sponsored by the American Association for the Child's Right to Play, or more affectionately titled IPA USA. IPA USA is the USA affiliate of the International Play Association. And as part of our efforts to promote play, we've introduced Porch Play Chats, and there are more than 200 of them that are free to you on a wide variety of topics. You can find all the Porch Play Chats if you visit our website at ipausa.org. Up in that top right-hand corner, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, be a friend on our Facebook page, follow us on Instagram, and now you can even see the Porch Play Chats on Spotify. And magically, every Monday morning, a new Porch Play Chat will appear in your feed. I'm Deb Lawrence, and I'm president of IPA USA, and with me on the porch is Juelie Perry. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Deb. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we're so happy you're here. Julie is an extraordinary speaker with almost 4 decades dedicated to early childhood education, seamlessly blending her extensive experience with cutting-edge research in her presentations and training sessions. With humor and playfulness, she connects deeply with her audience, striking a perfect balance between warmth and expertise. Julie's infectious enthusiasm embodies her commitment to inspiring minds to impact our world, empowering participants to create action plans for professional development. Through relatable stories and insightful solutions, I tell stories all the time, it's so helpful. She addresses common challenges in personal and professional lives, fostering growth and engagement, and ensures follow-up support, enabling everyone to implement strategies effectively and to make progress over time. Ooh, that's awesome. And so today, Julie's going to talk to us, and we're going to have a conversation about play as a form of self-care. And Julie, one of the things before you get started, I have to say that I find fascinating about Porch Play Chats. When people say they want to do a Porch Play Chat, they just tell me what day they want to do it and what their topic is. And they're scheduled, right? What is so fascinating to me is that almost every Porch Play Chat taping I've done in a day, there is no intention to make all 3 of those Porch Play Chats related, but it always happens. And so always, it is truly amazing. So this morning we talked about, children need to be bored, and parents don't have to be the cruise directors, and neither do their teachers. And then Sarah came on and is talking about, wow, adults really need time to have self-care and play. And now we're talking about play as a form of self-care. So it's truly fascinating to me.
It's gonna come to full circle.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the whole amazing spectrum of play.
Yes.
I think play is an umbrella. And when you pop open an umbrella and you have the little tines that hold each section of the umbrella open. And so play is the umbrella, and then those tines are those little tiny bits that go into a deeper level. Sometimes I compare them as even just if you're a computer geeky kind of person. I am certainly not. My husband is. You think of like a folder, right? And play is the folder, and you click on that folder in your program, and there's like a zillion subfolders. You open up that little one that says infants, and there's a zillion things under there, or whatever it is. And so this little subfile in the overarching theme of play is self-care. And it's absolutely life critical. I truly believe this, that as adults, no matter what form of employment you are in, we're in the early childhood education realm or the secondary education realm. But this works in all aspects of life, right? What is it that we truly intrinsically feel joy in doing that separates us from the mundane of every day?
Yes.
Right? So Deb, you have your porch chats, you're president, you're a speaker, you're a teacher, you have all of these hats. So I'm going to talk about a story real quick. You know a story called Caps for Sale?
Oh, yes. Oh my goodness,
This
I
is
love that story.
right, Caps for Sale. There was a peddler and he carried all of his wares on his head. And first he checked his own check cap, and then the red hats, and then the brown hats, and then the blue hats. At the
Mhm.
very top, the gold hats. And he walked down the street ever so balancing these caps. Why? Because that was his life. Those were his responsibilities. And when he finally got too weary and he laid next to a tree, the silly monkeys, those little flicks of life that show up, and it's like, wait a minute, those hats were there a minute ago. Where did they go? And you're trying to grab at all the hats that the monkeys have in the tree, which is a fruitless effort because you can't reach it, which is these things that are out of reach in our life. Somebody else has it, has taken responsibility, and it's taken you out of the system, and all of the analogies that I can go. And it wasn't until he kind of put his foot down and said, you know what, I've had enough. My hat's back, right? And I can go into some deep theological discussion on the hats, but I won't. But the idea is we wear many hats in our industry. We are what's called a helper field. We like to help people. That's why we're in education, human services, that type of thing.
Social work.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when our hats start to tip and we can't balance it all, that's when our life starts to fall apart, whether it's stress, whether it's trauma, whether it's health related, family, whatever it is that's upset the order of the hats on your head. So how do we rebalance that? How do we create a new purpose or a redesire for the passions we've had? Play is the spark of that. Reminding ourselves, this is what I say. It's okay to stop being a human doing and just stay in the human being present, right? Human being. You were created to be, and we're
Mhm.
not. We're busy bees.
Busy, busy
We're,
bee.
we're the bee double E, not the bee small e,
Hmm.
right? And so play is so vital. And why is it vital? Well, we go back to the beginning that it's intrinsic. It's something in us that has this desire to explore and discover and to manipulate and to create and to just be a part of. And we get almost emotionally connected as well as sensorial connectedness, right? And so how do we do that? So, all right, Deb, when you have to when all the hats fall off in something and
Hmm.
you have to kind of reconstruct and figure out where your center point is as an opportunity to enjoy, to relax, to play, all of that is within that umbrella. Deb, what's something that you find enjoyment in?
So I love to read, and
Okay.
not just textbooks or journal articles. It's reading for pleasure. I
Okay. And what does
love,
that do for you?
oh my goodness, it just resets everything, right?
Hmm.
So I can be, in the moment we're in the whole crazy conference planning, right? And getting
Right.
everything done and going off the checklist, right? So sometimes in the middle of all of that, I'll say, okay, I'm not being effective. I've done it too long. I need a break. And
Right.
so maybe I'll go water my plants, or maybe I'll play with my cats, or maybe I'll go up and read. And I mean, like 20 minutes, and I'm refreshed and ready to go again, right? So
Sure.
because it's something I really, really enjoy. In our house,
Right.
we play board games. And
Oh,
so
yes.
my husband and I play board games often. We have like 350. I'm in my basement. We have three, not on the porch, that's fake. We have 350 board games in our basement. And so we'll play games. And that is because you're so focused on the game and the strategy and everything. It's relaxing. It's memory work and thinking work, but it's fun and joyful.
Right. There's an enjoyment, there's fun.
Yes.
One of the things that I liked that you said is you have an awareness of when that timing was.
Yes.
When I feel this way, then I.
Mm-hmm.
We use when and then statements with children. When you do this, then this will happen, or, if and then. And so you had a great boundary setting of, when I feel this way, I
Mm-hmm.
know to do this
Mm-hmm.
to relax. In
Mm-hmm.
early childhood, with the stress of maybe teachers, specifically owners, directors, who are in the thick of it for 8, 10, 12, if somebody doesn't
12.
come in, 12
Yeah.
hours a day, and they've done it day upon day upon day. And I have a brand new book. It's called Culturally Responsive Self-Care Practices Specific to Early Childhood. Brilliant book. And knowing what is that boundary. I teach this often, identifying your identity.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you when all the caps and all the titles of your life strip away? Who are you? Who are you at your core? And that's a discussion that we could do another day. But the idea behind it is, when we've let the whole world infiltrate who we are, we
Mm-hmm.
forget who we are. And so making sure that we know what the boundaries are,
Mm-hmm.
creating an opportunity. And sometimes that means putting it in your calendar. Everything else goes in the calendar, doesn't it, Deb? We put,
Yeah. Oh my
whether
God,
it's,
so much in the
yeah,
calendar.
so much. But do we put exercise, meditation, spirituality? Do we put a playtime, a reconnecting with our families? I mean, are we creating a safety net, a boundary within our own lives, so that when we do that, we can serve the people that we have? And play allows us that opportunity,
Yes. And
right?
and think how healing. Well, number one, I think one of the things that, because we're in such a fast-paced society and it seems to be getting faster and faster, um,
Yes.
I just want you to correlate all of this with the rise in anxiety and
Oh,
depression
without a
and
doubt.
eating disorders and people who are struggling with maybe some addiction,
Hmm.
whether it's alcohol, legal or illegal drugs,
Whatever it is.
social media, whatever it is.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes.
and I want you to recognize that that's because we've forgotten how to reset.
Yes.
We're not aware anymore because we're just like this
Go, go,
all
go.
the time. And
Yes.
and you're not doing yourself or people who are around you justice,
Yes.
because you're not who you really are. You're
You can't be your true authentic self when you've forgotten who your true authentic self is.
yes.
And
And
I
once again,
remember playing with little rocks. This was back when I first learned about play spaces.
mhm,
Uh, I know Walter Drew's been on before, and some other wonderful of our mentors. But I remember sitting with a box of rocks, and I'm a nature sensorial person. And so I'm playing with these rocks. I was in a really weird time of my life, and I'm just manipulating, and then I'm building, and then I'm building, and then all of a sudden I'm crying.
oh,
I mean, genuine tears. And I'm thinking, this is the first time I was at, where I was? I was at a FLACY conference of FLAUIC in Orlando, probably almost 20 years ago, maybe 15. And I'm playing it and I'm sobbing. And I have
mhm,
no idea why I was this emotional release had occurred with playing with these open-ended materials. And it really took the presenter to come in and kind of work with us in reflection
mhm,
as to where that might be coming from. And as a adjunct professor myself, I have young students from 18 to say 30,
mhm,
and they're sitting with these items to play with, and I
mhm,
offer them solitary opportunities,
mhm.
and many of them are lost.
Yeah.
That same day's look in their eyes. They
Mhm.
have forgotten how to play. And if teachers don't know how to play, if caregivers don't know how to play, if directors don't find the importance of play, then no boundaries will be set for self-care, right?
Exactly. Well, and
Yeah,
just as you're a college professor and I'm a college professor, we play often in
sure.
classrooms. And one of the intro courses is child development, right? And so
Right.
we play often in there because they have not experienced it. They and now I'm in a community college, so we have a wide, diverse, lovely,
As
amazing
do we. Yes.
group of people. So we have 16-year-olds who are in dual enrollment programs up to 65-year-olds who are going back to school to get their associate's degree. And it's a rich, culturally diverse, ethnically diverse classroom, and I love it. And it is when we start talking about our play histories,
Mm-hmm.
it, they look at the older population and go, I never had that.
Right.
I that that's I mean I was I was at a camp,
Right.
or I was in sports, or I was in dance, but that I never had that. And
Right.
so then we say, so what emotions did
Mhm.
you hear from them and the expression on their faces when they were describing it? And they say, well, they look so happy.
Right.
And so
There's
then we
joy.
enjoy. Yeah. So it sometimes is helpful when they can see what they missed, because then it helps them want it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so
And I try not to play counselor. That's not my position, but to bring in awareness
mhm,
as to walking through some of those feelings. And let me tell you why we do that. First, it is a form of self-care, recognizing that as an emotional creature, you
mhm,
know, addressing those needs is huge. Addressing as much as it is for nutrition
mhm.
and other hygiene and doctor visits and things like that, is when we walk through that process and we let them feel those things, it also shows it demonstrates an empathetic nature. So when they go into the classroom, and if and
Mhm.
then they go into the classrooms, they're working with these little peoples and these infants and toddlers, and they're able to now see how the emotions and the social emotional regulation, which is so much needed in our schools these
So
days,
much needed.
with our challenging behaviors due to a variety of reasons. That's another talk for another day.
Mhm.
But if they can see why it affects them, and we can really continue that conversation throughout their courses, their college courses, and or parenting engagement opportunities the same way, if
Mhm.
parents can see how this affects them, it gives them an opportunity to see the light in their children.
Mhm.
Right. And so now you're building family, you're building cohesiveness in the workplace, you're providing high quality services to your children, which then filters into the community. And it's because we've set the boundary to remind ourselves that it's okay to play.
Okay. Yeah,
It's
it's
okay.
okay. And
It
and
is.
I do think that people feel guilty if they're not working.
Just going to say that. I
Eh,
had someone yesterday say the exact same thing to me.
mhm,
She says, I feel so guilty. And I said, well, let's walk through that. Why is it? Because I should be doing
uh-huh.
something else. I
Yeah.
said, so what you're saying is this thing, whatever that thing was, takes priority over you as a human being. And that's really a self-worth thing.
Uh-huh.
Okay. It's a self-esteem, self-worth. So I'm not important enough to be the center, because then we look at it as selfishness, which it's not. But
No.
if I take time for me, then I lose this, whether I lose money, whether I lose my kids, with there's a loss that comes with the surrender of myself. But it's backwards. We
Mhm.
surrender the main part of who we are. And
Right.
play helps us reestablish, whether board games, books, you going into nature. I'm a nature junkie. If I need to deconstruct my stress, it's outside in the blazing heat, or jumping in a pool, or finding some rock, whatever it is. Nature is my connection. The other thing that's my connection, and I don't think it's going to show well, but our formal living room is a music room. Full set
Uh,
of drums, guitars, grand piano, keyboard, other percussion instruments, a trumpet. What else do we have over there? Triangles. So we've created our formal living room as a music opportunity. So when the neighborhood's kids come in,
mhm.
they don't have to be afraid to touch the instruments. They
That's
can come and
wonderful.
what? Play,
Play.
experiment,
Mhm.
touch, explore,
Discover. Yeah.
rediscover, or first discover.
Mhm.
And I want people to understand that if you don't have a boundary that is important to you, that
Mhm.
self-care, and I don't mean a glass of wine and a bubble bath, because that's a
Right.
short term, it doesn't fix it. But getting to the root of the matter of understanding that you have to find a time for enjoyment and relaxation,
Mhm.
rejuvenation, self-care. That's all self-care. And play does that.
Well, and
Absolutely does that.
if you don't do that, right,
Oh,
then
right.
you're harming yourself. Your anxiety
Absolutely.
will go up. You might be a person that gets depressed but you don't know why you're feeling this
Right.
way. You just need to stop whatever it is. It'll be there tomorrow, and you need to take a break. And so I think it's that awareness. Something's not right. Why
Right.
can't I focus? Why am I not being productive? Right? Because we
Sure.
always have to be productive, right? And and then saying, oh, maybe I need a break. Maybe I
Right.
need to go play. Maybe I need to go. The other thing I do is watch my birds in the bird feeder. I love my birds. And
Somehow something happens at an age time where all of a sudden you're not interested in the world, but oh my God, there's a cardinal. It's the same cardinal has been there 5 years, 10 years, but all of a sudden it is like you have to have the Merlin app and you have to get your bird books out. I'm with you, Deb. I'm with you on the bird thing.
love birds.
Love my birds.
And I grew up with birds all around me in the South, but I have just, yeah, I don't know, some switch flipped in
Yes, it
my
does.
brain, and I get so much enjoyment of
Yes.
watching the birds in the bird feeder come and
The other
go.
thing is there's a freedom with birds
Yes.
to come and go and to be fed and to flit about either on their own or they're with partners. And there's a freedom with flight, right?
Mhm.
And
Right.
so some people love to travel, they love to fly. They
Mhm.
love that feeling of moving from place to place. That's their play. I am a traveler. I love going on planes and trips and camping, and I love that stuff, right? Um, I, I can't stay on permanent vacation yet, someday,
Oh,
but that's one of
someday.
my play. You know, my husband loves to travel. He loves to play his drums. He loves to read. My daughters love to draw and paint. That's
Mhm.
their de-stress time. One of my kids loves video games. I know there's studies on the benefits of virtual gaming um, in moderation, like anything else. You don't want to use it as an escapism, but play as a form of self-care. Let that just resonate in the head.
Mhm.
Am I finding time in my life to do something that I freely chose, that I find enjoyment in pleasing, that will help me recenter, right? Then that identifying your identity becomes a little easier because instead of wearing all the hats, you have the one hat and you can take that off. That's your job or your career or whatever it is that has a title over you, mom position, dad position, whatever. You can take that off because you can always put it back on. But the true you, this has been created with gifts and talents and abilities, can shine through because you've taken care of the human being and stop with always doing the human doing thing. So it
Yes.
is so vital to have that.
It is so vital. And you'll be a happier person. You'll be a better parent.
Absolutely.
You'll certainly be a better teacher.
Yes.
And I think with all this crazy stuff that we're dealing with academic push down and pressure that we've been experiencing for
Yes,
23
ma'am.
years,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because of No Child Left Behind.
Absolutely.
I think teachers feel like to be validated and to be respected as a professional, sometimes they feel they have to do the teacher stuff, right?
Sure.
Where I need to control the classroom and I'm going to plan the day.
Yep.
But that's not how children learn. And so
Right.
if you can give yourself some grace and say, you know what, I'm just going to figure out what they're interested in doing today and let them do it. And I'm just going to
Freedom.
sit here and see what happens. I'm going to walk
It's
around the
amazing.
classroom and listen to their conversations. I'm going to take some notes about, wow, Sarah can do that last week. And I'm going to enjoy
Yes.
children's play. And I think if
Right.
we can switch it for, oh, I've got to do this. Well,
Correct.
you don't
Yeah.
have to do that. You should
Right.
be doing this.
And again, that's one of the things that I had said at the beginning of this conversation is making sure directors or boards of directors that the philosophy. This is another topic of conversation that I have consistently, not only with my college students, but when I coach and when I do public speaking, is your personal mission statement matching your professional educational philosophy? And are those two things lining up with the company you're working for? Because we know right now in our industry, people are hiring whatever warm body walks in the door with whatever is needed to get them through there. And then there's no following up onboarding. Again, we could go on for conversations, but that builds that stress already. You're unequally yoked, if you want to think of
Mhm.
it that way, where you're not your wagon isn't hitched properly. And so as you go off, I want to play with kids. My director says I need to do testing, or my director says, or the board says I have to do this, or the state says I have to do this. And so that's not a good marriage. You want to
Mhm.
keep your employees, then you need to make sure that your philosophy and their philosophy match. And when you have an opportunity to have a play-based, all standards,
Mhm.
all standards can be met with play-based, all of them.
Every single one.
Every one of them, from NACI to every accreditation to every developmental milestone, play it is. Okay, Froebel talked about that hundreds of years ago. So as we walk through that journey of knowing that play is so vital for children, it's just as vital, if not sometimes more, for adults.
Yes.
Because the minute we open ourselves to that opportunity to play, the more we realize the importance and the value of the children, and it takes the stress off for having to schedule everything in block timing for 2-year-olds.
Yes. And
Sit at the Play-Doh table and play with them.
yes. And I think if we I think in the last 20 some years,
Yeah.
and maybe 30 years, we have seen play as a break. I'm going to take a break and they can play for
Right.
15 minutes, right?
Yep.
Instead of seeing play, so IPA, the International Play Association, and IPA USA, and all the other countries that are involved with IPA
Sure.
World, we describe play as a biological necessity.
Oh,
It is
absolutely.
just as important as food, just as important as water, just as important as shelter, just as important as safety. It
Yep.
is a biological. So if you think of Maslow, it's right
Yeah,
there on the bottom.
exactly. Yep.
It is
It's right
it
at the
is
bottom, foundational.
at foundational. And if children don't have the opportunity to have this biological necessity opportunities in the classroom or at home or in the neighborhood,
Yep.
then it's difficult for them to continue the developmental continuum. So if we
Sure.
just think of it as important as
Right.
food, water, shelter, and safety, then I hope and that means joyful for the child selected,
Yes.
not rotating centers every 15 minutes. It
Right.
is
Right.
child, not teacher. And
Right.
then I have to tell you, I've had, again, we have this wide range of students in age. And I had a student that was in her 50s and she started her AA degree. And she said, "Oh my God, I never let them play." And I said, "Why
Yep.
is that?" She said, "Well, we have so much to do." And I said, "But play is what they need to be doing." And so she said, "Okay." I said, "Start small." They're so
Yeah,
used to being controlled that if you go in and say you can do anything you want for 2 hours, it's going to be chaos, right?
it is.
So
Yes,
giving them freedom in bite-sized pieces and work up to 2 hours in the morning,
absolutely.
an hour on the playground, 2 hours in the afternoon, an hour on the
Yep,
playground, and
absolutely.
and tell me how you feel. And so over the semester, she baby stepped her way through and she walked in the door like it was like week 13 of 15. And she said, "I need to say something to people." And so I said, "Okay, feel free." And she said, "What I did is working." And how I feel about my job is I can't wait to get to my job.
See,
And
that's it.
instead of feeling like, oh my God, I have to go work for 8 hours.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's that joy again, joy
It,
in
I'm,
watching children
but
develop.
see,
It,
that's absolutely in the core of our being,
yes.
regardless of the spirit, where your spiritual guide is from. Okay. Joy and love are the
Mhm,
center point of all of those things.
mhm,
Okay. And that's the way we were created. And if those needs aren't met, then that void is now filled with all the different hats, right? Whatever that is: depression, anxiety, fear, frustration, illness, debt, family problems, work, you name it. Every hat has an issue. And so if your bucket isn't filled, if your heart isn't filled, if your soul isn't filled with the good stuff, it will be filled with something.
yes.
And so as adults, it is so vitally important to have an awareness that we make the choice. Just like when you could have a binge night out and have all the Twinkies in the world and chicken wings, and you're going to wake up the next day and feel like you've been hit by a bus because
Mhm.
it's not good for you, right? And if you continuously do that in your life, it's called toxic stress or diabetes, whatever one you want.
Right.
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 And so toxics, I do a whole series on burnout versus compassion fatigue versus toxic stress,
Mhm,
secondary toxic stress, how it affects the endocrine system, and how play and setting those boundaries for self-care it ties in. It ties in physiologically, as you said, biologically. There's science behind it.
mhm.
When that joy and that contentment and that peace and that love is void, it opens up the bucket to be filled and replaced with other things. And it takes a really long time. Have you ever tried to dig in a rocky soil?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Hard,
And
tough.
it's hard, and you're pulling out it feels like you're never going to get to the bottom, but then you get through all of that, and then you get the good dirt, the
Mhm,
good soil, and you can replant and put new soil in. So that's what play offers,
mhm.
to get rid of all of the rocks and take off all the caps and just be a human being and
And
live
give
in the
your
moment of the
and
joy.
allow yourself to be human. You're not a computer.
Oh
You're
yeah.
not
Hmm.
your calendar.
And feel the
So
feelings.
yes, and feel it and really search for that thing or things
Yes.
that bring you joy, not more stress, not more anxiety, not guilt, none of those
Because
things.
my husband said so, or my kids said so. I'm doing this for them. That's people pleasing. And there's times you have to do that. But there's also a time when you say, I'm not cooking dinner.
Mhm.
I'm going to go get a pizza, and I'm going to go walk the beach all by myself or with my significant person. I'm going to walk the dog, whatever. I find enjoyment in it. I'm going to go to my bedroom. I'm going to shut the door and read my book,
Mhm.
and you're going to give the kids the bath, or it's releasing those hats, releasing that responsibility, delegating and scheduling it in as a boundary.
And it's not selfish.
It's not selfish. It's
Not. It's self.
self-awareness.
Yeah. So that's what I want people to hear. Julie, this has been
Yes.
amazing. Thank you so much. Stay right there
Oh,
while I close this out. Ooh, we
absolutely, guys. Thanks for
to come
having me.
back
This was a joy.
7 more times at least. I'll send you dates. So stay right there. And until next time, I hope you will go to our website at IPAUSA.org. And I want you to take care of yourself. You deserve it. And I want you to go and play.
Yes.